Well, welcome back, guys. Thanks for joining us again. Again, I guess introducing myself. So I'm Joey. I'm Paid Media Director here at The Social Shepherd. And I've got Jakub here again joining me today. Jakub, if you want to give yourself a bit of an intro.
100%, yeah. Dzień dobry. I'm originally from Poland, hence the sort of local introduction here. Been in the industry for 6 years now. Part of the agency for 6 months roughly. I'm the senior paid media manager here at the Social Shepherd and have been enjoying it very well. Yeah.
Cool. Thanks very much, and thanks for joining me today. I guess we'll just jump straight into it. We're going to be talking about feed management today.
Exactly.
It's something that's kind of, I guess, a hot topic within the agency at the moment, as it's a new services, that we've onboarded, that we are delivering to our clients. So I guess to give a bit of an intro, why it's a bit of a hot topic. I think, certainly some of the discussion points that we've had around on other podcasts before around the paid media world becoming so much more automated. I think the importance still, relies on the bits that you can have direct control over.
Yeah.
And those 3 elements that I've discussed before, I know when we've had Jack on the podcast is looking specifically at creative, because that obviously drives quite a lot of performance, certainly on the paid social side of things, and with the onus kind of driving quite a lot on the Performance Max side as well. Manual search as well. I think, again, we've got quite a lot of automated search coming through Performance Max, but actually just still maintaining that control over your search terms. But thirdly, alongside of that is actually looking after your product feed. I think it's certainly something that we've seen the benefits of introducing into our offering because of the extra kind of reach impressions that you can get from making sure your feed is, I guess, up to scratch in terms of the way that Google crawls it.
We definitely recommend that, yeah.
Oh yeah, absolutely. I think again, there's so many mistakes that we see when we kind of look at product feeds. In the way that you can improve them just to make sure that the way Google crawls it and the way that Google reads it is the best way that we can possibly have it to make sure that it's running in the most effective way. So Jakub, I guess, do you want to kick things off with what do we normally see that's wrong on product feeds? I know we partner with a feed provider and it gives us the option to audit our clients' product feeds, and it obviously comes back with good things and bad things that that we're seeing on those feeds.
I think taking a very little step back just to visualize how important feed management or feed itself is for you or for any of the e-commerce businesses out there. You should, if you run a full funnel paid media activity, you already have a feed in your account and you already are using your feed on Google, you're using your feed on Facebook, maybe on Pinterest, maybe on TikTok as well. And what you do with that feed is obviously you run a PMax campaign on Google. You do run, you should, and all of the funnel or Advantage Plus shopping campaigns on Facebook, and you use it for bottom of the funnel dynamic ads, remarketing for that platform as well. There is an element of that on Pinterest and on TikTok as well. So as you can see, the feed already is quite a big chunk of your advertising portfolio. So that's why making sure that your feed is up to scratch is very, very important. The way you usually do it is you hire us for the feed management purposes. And what we do for you is we go on to the feed management platform and we audit the feed. What we usually see is we cross-reference your offering and the way sort of you structure your product titles, product descriptions, any sort of meta details of your products that you pull into the feed, and then we cross-references against Google's recommendation. What we usually see is, I guess 9 out of 10 clients, they miss on quite a lot of them. Starting from product titles, where the product titles are not in-depth enough, they don't include as many details as they should. Product descriptions are usually too short. Then there's not enough brand data or color data or material data or pattern data in the product itself for Google to be able to further recognize what the products or specifics are. Then there's an element of GTANs or MPNs not pulling through to the feed as well. All these issues highly solvable and highly on importance, across your paid media portfolios.
Yeah, sure. I guess I guess the reason why we see, particularly looking at the product titles and descriptions, them being, too short, not containing enough information, is I guess most clients who don't use a feed management provider, the data that we're putting is coming directly from the website.
Yeah.
And if you're adding all of this extra information, onto your site, it's obviously not going to be visually very appealing, and it probably won't
100%.
wonders for your conversion rate either, because there'll just be so much information on your product pages that, people are just going to get lost. I guess that's where the benefit of the feed management tool comes in. It's because we can directly pull all of that information out, change it and manipulate it, and then shove it into Merchant Center.
I think that's a brilliant shout, actually, Joey, here, because I think there is an element of a limitation here. And I completely understand that, because if I had my e-commerce business and I had a website, I would want all these product titles and product descriptions to look lovely and support the conversion rate on the website itself, not necessarily feed it into the feed, where we need more. I mean, not that we need it. Google requires more data, and Google requires more details, and the product titles itself in a feed doesn't look as sexy. Which is totally understandable. But again, we have a tool here where we can manage that, and we can optimize that. And this, I think, an important distinction here is the feed data is separate to the on-site visible product titles and product descriptions. We wouldn't modify the product titles and product descriptions on the page itself, so they can stay sexy as they are, but we can increase the searchability of all the products in the feed.
Yeah, for sure. I think there's elements as well that with some of the work that we're doing is really focused around search semantics as well. With quite a lot of clothing brands potentially that that we've worked with before, and I expect if you go and do searches and look at some clothing brands sites, the way that they name different colors of different items of clothing can be really rogue sometimes, and they're coming up with color names that I don't even know what they mean. So if you think about that from a search perspective, in the way that people search, Google is no way going to be able to match those elements with the search terms that people are creating. So
there is also an element of our expertise. I mean, we do know search patterns, and we do know search patterns across the clients that work with us. So there is an element of recognition here and an experience here where we can say that a paper or sandpaper color is, a traditional version of a yellow beige color.
Yeah, and I guess that's where the rule setting comes into play with the feed management platform itself, because we can then go in and say, if this t-shirt is called sandpaper, on the website, actually what people are searching for is a yellow t-shirt, right? So we can go in and say, if product name contains sandpaper, we can change that to yellow, and then again that's appeasing the search volumes and the trends that we're seeing, to make sure that we're getting the most amount of volume, I guess, through when people are making those searches.
Yeah, I think that's what it's all about, to increase searchability across all the products that you have. And imagine yourself being a customer here. You're not necessarily looking for a t-shirt, you're looking for a specific t-shirt, most of the time you're looking for a size, which is very often not included in a product title. So you're simply missing out on the most relevant searches, the closer the search term. So the term that the users actually type in into search engine, the closer it is to what's in the product feed, the higher chance that the user will click on it and then eventually convert.
Yeah, for sure. I guess that kind of leads on to, we're talking about product titles and descriptions here and making sure that we've got all of the right information in there. I guess the next bit that kind of feeds underneath that is which is kind of, I guess, categorized as the next most important bit of the product feed is the Google product category categorization itself, and making sure that the way that you've got it formatted within the feed actually matches Google's taxonomy, because a lot of feeds that we look at don't have that, and then when Google go to crawl all of that product data within the feed, it doesn't match up with their taxonomy. So actually when those searches are made, it's very difficult for those kind of matches to be made.
I think categorization in general for feed management is actually a very interesting topic. So yes, a Google product category is definitely the first place we go in to check if the categorization in Google's naming convention is done properly. But then there is an element of product types and product categories on a website themselves. The product types usually are being pulled in the same way they are being represented on a website. And you do have a certain element of categorizations on a page, but there might be a depth, a level of like 2 or maybe one or two, maybe gender, maybe type of a product on a page. Whereas Google recommends at least 6, which is the level of depth again here. So what we do is we make your feed more granular so that it is again more relevant for Google's algorithms. Then there is a third element of this, which is a categorization to use for your campaigns. So as we have discussed in length before with our clients and internally within the paid media department, if we do have feed activity across the board, there are all of the funnel PMAX campaigns, bottom of the funnel campaigns, but they usually 9 or 10 clients again, they run it. They provide all products for the platforms, and then they do not segment the products because there is a very hard to achieve element of categorization here for all these products. What we can do again here is we can label the products into categories and then segment the offering into separate asset group, into a separate ad groups, which then opens an entire ocean of adjustments across the board. We can invest in different categories, different product margin categories. Again, we can adjust the creative offering in the account to asset groups and ad groups. So whatever you do on your website already, because I imagine if you are an e-commerce business, you do segment your offering and then you adjust your content on a website to what is visible in terms of the product category. We can do that for you in any of the platforms, which is a huge benefit, honestly. I think there is a lot of paid media specialists out there that struggle with feed-based campaign being a black box type of a campaign where they don't provide as much insight as you would ideally want to, because we've been sort of experienced with paid media being a very insight-led channel. Where now with feed management or a greater level of control over the feed, you're now able to sort of segment that big chunk of your activity so that you can modify the structure. You can finally modify the structure. It's the 22nd century here, yeah?
Yeah, for sure. So I guess once we've got all of these changes in place, we've kind of brought the feed up to, I guess, Google's kind of best practice standard. What's kind of the next step for us then? I think, one of the things that we would suggest is really to go into a testing phase, right?
So I guess the next step would be to rewire the setting in a sense. So we use the Optimise feed to replace your current feed in a Google Mentor Center, which with an added bonus, it allows us to upgrade your Google Mentor Center to a premium CSS.
That's I guess one of the benefits that we've got working with the feed provider that we do is we do have access to the premium CSS. I guess for the listeners that don't know what a CSS is, essentially it means comparison shopping site. Now, I think it was 2017, Google were fined, I think it was 2.1 billion for essentially monopolizing that space. So I know when you guys go and make searches and you look at shopping listings, you'll see, products appearing and they'll say by Google underneath them. That was all owned by Google 2017 and prior to that. And essentially they were forced to stop monopolizing that market because they were fined, and to incentivize other players coming into the market to try and take up some of that market share. They introduced a click cost discount. It's essentially you're buying clicks from Google from your shopping activity at a wholesale price, and you get a 20% discount if you run through one of the premium CSSs. So I guess that's kind of like a really big benefit in terms of actually being massively more competitive within that space. 100%. A 20% CPC decrease is pretty big, at the end of the day. So
just imagine your spend, it's 20% more of clicks and impressions for the same money,
Yeah, exactly. So I think, there's obviously two ways that we can look at it in terms of the saving that you make. You can look at it that you're going to get 20% saving on your CPCs, if you reduce your bids, but actually, if you're still maintaining at the same level, you're essentially being 20% more competitive within the space. So it's a really powerful tool, alongside the feed management side of things to kind of really help drive performance forward for our shopping activity.
100%. Yeah. So there you go. A lot of benefits for the feed management. Main being increased searchability, increased quality of your feed. There's more you can do with your product offering if you're struggling today to recognize what you can do with your feed. We definitely can help with that. And then the third added benefit is the 20% discount on a CBC.
Amazing. Well, thank you, Jakub, for joining me today. And thanks everyone for listening. If you're obviously watching on YouTube, please give us a like and a subscribe. And if you're listening on any of our social channels, just give us a follow.